Okay, in this lesson, we're going to look at association versus causation. We're also going to talk about some scatter plots and elaborate a little bit more on line of best fits. So if you would make sure that your notebook is set up with the correct essential question, and then restart it when you're ready to look at the notes. Okay, now I have a lot of this already defined for you, so I'm just zooming in a little bit. And so let's talk about what a scatter plot is. So here we have a scatter plot. It says it's just a graph of a set of data points. So it's just a bunch of random points. All these examples that you see here below, these are all examples of scatter plots. And so we have several different types of relationships when we talk about scatter plots. It says if the y tends to increase as the x increases, then we have what's called a positive correlation. Correlation is also another word for association. It's correlated, it's related. And so this one right here is an example of a positive correlation. Notice as the x values go up, the y values are also going up. Okay, it's a positive trend, a positive correlation, a positive association. Those are all words that you'll see related to that. If the y values tend to decrease as the x increases, then the data has a negative correlation. And so this is an example. Notice our x values go up as our y values go down. You may kind of see that this does go along with a positive slope and a negative slope, if you remember anything about slopes. And then also, we can see that we have scatter plots that are just all random, they're all over their place, and there is actually no correlation. There is no relationship, there is no association. So that's really important that we know the different types of associations. So here's two examples. It says, describe the correlation shown by each scatter plot. And so I hope these are really easy for you to see. As all of your x values are going up, you can also see that your y values are going up on this graph. And so as one goes up, the other goes up, this would be a positive correlation or association. Okay, and the next one, again, very easy to see. As our x values are going up, our y values are actually decreasing. And so this would be an example of a negative correlation or a negative relationship. Now, one thing I want to point out to you about these graphs is I want to talk about how you would draw a trend line. We will learn how to create a trend line or a linear regression with the calculator, but you also need to be able to draw your trend line. So when you draw your trend line or line of best fit, that's another name that you might, line of best fit, that you may see. Okay, we want to try, these points are all really close together. We want to try to get as many of the points on that line as possible. For example, I wouldn't want to draw a line right there. Okay, that doesn't have any of the points on it, so that wouldn't be good. But I want to try to draw it so as many of the points are on the line as possible. It doesn't have to go through 0, 0. In fact, I probably would start mine a little bit lower and get a nice trend line. Because those points are so close together, we can get a really good trend line going through most of the points. Now the negative association, the negative one, is a little bit more spread out. And so you can see, obviously, I'm not going to draw a positive trend line. I've got to draw a negative trend line, and these are a little bit trickier. So I want to get as many of the points on it and then an equal amount above and below. So I'm thinking I would probably draw my line about right there. I still have some above and below, but it's just about an equal amount, and so that's through the middle of the data. And we can use that trend line or those lines of best fits to then help us make predictions about the graph and about points that maybe aren't drawn on the graph. Okay, so the next thing we need to talk about is the difference between an association and a causal relationship or a causation. So we have two different types of relationships. We have associative, or you can think of this as an association. And what it says about an association is that two quantities have a connection, but does not necessarily cause the change in the other. So, let's see, what would an example be? For example, if it's hot outside, then it's going to be cold in the building. So there's an association, because if it's hot outside, we're probably going to turn the AC up, but being hot outside doesn't actually cause it to be cold in the building. Okay, then we also have what's called a causal relationship. A causal relationship is one in which the change causes the change in the other. So for example, a change in the radius of a circle causes the area to change. That is true. If the radius gets bigger, then the area of the circle is going to also get bigger. So it does cause one over the other. And so what I want you to do is I want you to look at 7, 8, 9, and 10, and I want you to determine if there's a causal or an association. Okay? Oh, my phone is ringing.